I haven't even finished a book in the last 2 weeks. Not a single one. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. And today is Sunday, July 6th, and I am here to wrap up my writing for the month of June. As you guys are no doubt aware by now, the end of May marked the start of a big shift in writing for me. I finally got over this hump that I had been experiencing with my manuscript, and I finally was able to push through the end and finish the first draft. And as I was leading up to that completion, I was thinking that my revision plan would be to do a postmortem outline, then take some notes and figure out some subplots and character arcs that I wanted to make more prominent or edit out, or just figure out how I wanted to weave those in, and then finish out this middle part of the revision stage with a fresh outline for draft 2. My original goal was to do all of that by June 23rd so that I could start the second draft at the beginning of the summer and hopefully have it wrapped up by the beginning of fall. And while that did turn out to be the case, it took kind of a circuitous route to get there, because the week I started this revision plan was the same week that I was home on my annual birthday staycation, and that sounds like a perfect recipe for getting a bunch of work done, but I ended up really not feeling like working a whole lot on the project, mostly because I just hit a major milestone and I was very exhausted from doing that. And also, I was on vacation and I didn't want to really be doing a lot of work. I wanted to take the time to rest and recharge my batteries. So I ended up spending most of the week reading, but I did kind of start the process of the postmortem outline. And through just starting it, I realized how long it was actually going to take. It was taking me at least half an hour per scene because I was reading through the first draft iteration of the scene and taking notes and then filling out a worksheet of the scene and how I wanted to revise it in draft 2. And it was then that I sort of revised my revision plan. I decided I was not going to try and push for that June 23rd start date after all. It was just going to take too long to get through the postmortem outline, to say nothing of a brand new outline. So I worked on it, and after about 2 weeks of that, I was feeling a little bit like I was spinning my wheels, and not because of the process itself necessarily, but because I had come up with a major revision idea for the 25% to the 50% mark of the draft. It was going to be completely overhauled. Scenes were going to be cut and new ones were going to be added in its place. Different beats were coming in to take the place of what was being cut, and it was just completely different. And in my opinion, much better. It definitely will make that part of the manuscript more interesting. So I was really excited to implement those changes, but as I was working through the postmortem outline, I realized that those changes kind of affected everything that come after them. And my postmortem revision notes just became, just keep in mind that all of this will change based on the new context of the Act 2 rework. And so the exercise started to feel kind of pointless. I don't necessarily think it was, and part of me still does want to go back through that portion that I petered off on and complete the postmortem outline, but things only escalated from there. I did then sit down and take some notes on the various subplots and character arcs that I had kind of dribbled in throughout the first draft, kind of willy-nilly as I thought of them, because I wanted to be more intentional with them in draft 2. But it took me all of a day, maybe a day and a half, to realize that was also kind of pointless. That's not true. It was just that I was starting to write down literally everything that occurred or came up more than once. And I don't know if those were real subplots or story arcs or character arcs. And so I was just starting to feel like, why am I doing this? How is this helping me? Because I had already kind of flagged certain story arcs and things in my mind. And the list that I came up with didn't really add to the ones that I definitely wanted to make more prominent in draft 2. So then I decided, well, okay, that wasn't that helpful either. I better just go ahead and start the outline of draft 2. So that's what I did. We are now something like 18, 19 days since I finished the first draft, and I was already getting into the draft 2 outline, which is not what I expected at all. I kind of thought that I would want to take a break because I have such a hard time drafting, and drafting is so difficult for me. But I just felt energized. I wanted to continue. Like I said, I was excited about the Act 2 changes that I was going to implement in draft 2, and I didn't want to lose any of the motivation, motivation is the wrong word, but any of like the verve and excitement I felt for the project, because I also know how fickle that can be. And I worried that if I took too long of a break, that I wouldn't feel that excitement anymore, and that my completion of the first draft would allow my worse nature to exert itself and just abandon it for way longer than I am really comfortable with. So I wanted to just capitalize on the energy and keep moving forward. And as I started moving through the draft 2 outline, I was seeing more and more of my favorite YouTubers jump on a 75 or 185 day challenge, a hard challenge, writing challenge. I was seeing some of my favorite author tubers sign with agents, and I was seeing more and more of my community advance themselves in their own work, and I wanted to be a part of that too. And so I made the decision to just go ahead and just jump into draft 2 after all, on the original planned start date of June 23rd. But if that wasn't enough, I had to come up with my own version of a writing challenge. Not because I wanted to do what everyone else is doing, but because I want to have draft 2 finished by the end of the summer, which is around September 20th or so. And why do I want to do that? Well, it's because I also have this harebrained idea that I want to start a seasonal writing challenge or community event called Finish Your Book Fall. And the idea of it is not necessarily to replace Nano, but to maybe fill the void that it left, in which a community of writers can gather and set their own goals. It's certainly not going to be like the hard and fast rules of Nano, but just a way to come together in community and challenge one another to set their goal and finish their book at whatever stage of the process they may be in. If that's starting a new draft and finishing it in the season of fall, if that's just finally getting over the hump to finish a first draft, a second draft, finish revisions, start querying, whatever finish your book means, that's what I envision this Finish Your Book Fall to be. For me, I want to be able to start and finish a draft in the season of fall. But if I'm starting draft 2 now, I don't want to artificially linger just so I can say that I finished a draft in fall. I'd much rather start a fresh draft at the beginning of fall and have it finished by the end of the fall. Not only because of this community event I want to organize, but also because I am attending a writing conference at the beginning of October. DFW Con is my local writing conference, and it's a pretty big one. I went in 2019, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because the year after was COVID. And it was a big event. There were hundreds of people there, lots of writers. I met a lot of great people, and some of them were even flying in. So it's kind of a big deal. And while I was not in a position to return, partially because of COVID, but also partially because of finances, and also just I wasn't at the right place in my writing journey yet. I don't know why I said all that, but I wanted to come back when I was ready. And this year, I feel like I'm ready. And that is all compounded by something I heard, that you don't necessarily need to have a manuscript query ready in order to pitch an agent at one of these conferences. And that was news to me. I thought you had to be ready to hit send. But apparently, the general consensus is that you have like a year from the time you pitch, and an agent says, yeah, send me your material, to send that material. I would love to be as ready as possible when I arrive at DFW Con and start talking to agents. And for me, that means getting a second draft done and getting started on the third draft. By then, I hope to have at least some critique partner feedback and be thinking about who I would like to send the manuscript off for beta reading. And so with all of that in mind, I decided to push forward with my original plan of starting and finishing draft 2 in the season of summer, so that the fall can be dedicated to draft 3. I've been on this challenge for 2 weeks now, and what I will say is that it's been hard. It hasn't been as hard as I thought, but know that the longer I go on, it will get harder. And so while I can't say for sure yet if I will successfully complete the challenge, I am grateful for the energy and the motivation I have right now that is pushing me to succeed so far in this challenge and get farther than I would have if I hadn't set it for myself. Because let's be honest, if I hadn't set myself the goal of writing 10,000 words per week, complete with punishments if I fail in that task, I would not be already 20,000 words deep into the new draft. I'd maybe have 5,000 or 7,000, but not over 20 now. And so the last success I had in the month of June was successfully completing that first week of the challenge, 10,000 words in a single week. And something else that I learned through starting that process is that another aspect of my revision plan didn't really come through in the way I imagined it would, which was that I thought I was going to be drafting mostly new words in the new draft. But as it turns out, I'm copying over a lot more from draft 1 than I expected. Now, as I get further and further away from that very first opening snapshot, I am having to draft completely new words because I'm drafting completely new scenes. So it's balanced back out to now at about a quarter of the words I've written are from the old draft. When I got through like the first 2 scenes, it was like a third. So it's come down a little, and that will of course change a lot as I implement the Act 2 rework. But that was totally a revelation to me because I honestly thought I would be drafting all new words. But as it turns out, I guess I like my writing better than I thought I did because there's some good stuff in there. And also I think this middle draft between draft 3 and draft 1, this middle draft is kind of has elements of both, right? Like you just want to get through it, especially with all of these changes I'm making, but also you want it to be good. So I'm not like copying chapters wholesale. I am taking passages and reworking them and changing them and altering the context and making minor line level changes to make it sound better. But also I'm still not overly concerned with perfection or how it's going to sound to a reader because I'm not there yet. So that was my June, and I've got a big July planned. I obviously have the goal to continue this 12-week writing challenge. That would normally mean like 4.5 weeks, but because I am going on a cruise with my family in the middle of the month, it will only end up being like 3.5 weeks. I've already worked that all out with my schedule, and that's pretty much it. I would just continue to draft. So hopefully by the end of July, I'll be at 50,000, 60,000. I'd have to count which weeks are counting and whatnot, but almost halfway. And that would be really exciting, especially since the first draft took me, 8 months. So if I can get through this in 3 months, that would be life-changing, which was sort of the impetus to start this challenge in the first place. Something else that has been more on my mind lately is preparing myself to start a new project once I am ready to actually query seekers. Now, we are distant from that, obviously. I still have the second draft to get through. Then there's a third draft. There's going to be feedback I need to implement and tightening things up and researching agents. I've never done that before, and I haven't the faintest idea of even how or where to start. That being said, I don't want to start the brainstorming process when I'm starting the querying process for seekers. I would like to start the drafting process for a new project when I'm querying seekers so that I am always writing and always moving forward. Listen, I will be the first to tell you that world building and outlining and planning counts as writing, but I'm feeling time pressure of late. I am feeling a lot of time pressure. Something about my to be written pile video that I made a couple weeks ago where I realized that I want to write more than 50 books. And if I write 1 book a year, then I'm running pretty short on time. But also my birthday and seeing other YouTubers and feeling the age gap between us. And that's not nothing to say about my friends in the community. It's just I'm feeling the time pressure for sure. I'm feeling like I've got to start taking it seriously or I never will get anywhere. And to me, taking it seriously means making it my focus as much as I can. And that to me means doubling up. So something I am thinking about trying in July is, when I have time, which I may not, when I have time, start the brainstorming process for my next project, which I've already picked out. It's tentatively titled Daughters of Necessity. It's one that has been percolating in my brain for a while. It's another one of my projects that I did try to draft a couple of times and got about 20,000 words in before it fizzled out. It's not like it's a completely new idea. I do have the general conflict, the characters, and some of the themes already picked out, but I would like to start more seriously thinking about, okay, how does the magic work? What's the plot going to be? What does this kingdom look like? It's post-apocalyptic, magical plague sort of scenario. So what sort of state is this kingdom in and whatnot? And that is something that I want to start seriously thinking about in July, if possible, because so far the first 2 weeks of this challenge, I have not had much time to think about anything but Seekers. I haven't even finished a book in the last 2 weeks. Not a single one. As you can tell, most of my brain power is going to Seekers. So if I don't do any work on Daughters, it's not the end of the world. That is pretty much it for June. It was a little bit of a meandering route to end up at the same foregone conclusion, I feel like, because I had kind of tagged June 23rd as the start date for draft 2, like way back in March. And as it got later and later and later in the spring, and I still hadn't finished the first draft, I was doubting myself. And then when I did finish, and I was like, oh, I've got 3 weeks. That should be plenty of time to do a revision plan. Oh, never mind. Oh, just kidding. It's just been a little bit of a ride. But like I said, I'm 2 weeks into this challenge, and both weeks I completed successfully, and I'm still feeling really good about where I'm at creatively and where I'm at with this particular project and with the ideas I'm coming up with. And so I'm just gonna write it as long as humanly possible. And I'm really glad that I have a vacation that'll force me to disconnect for 5 or 6 days, because that'll make me rest and hopefully reset myself for the back half of the challenge. But like I said, I'm just gonna take advantage as long as I can. And I hope you guys continue to come with me on this journey. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave me a sunflower emoji, because June was my birth month and sunflowers are my favorite flower. In my next video, I will have my weekly writing vlog for you, in which I hope to tell you I have completed another successful week of this writing challenge. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.